Cool. Hey, folks, thank you for tuning in to Elevate the Ultimate Global Content Summit. And thanks for coming to this very exciting session that I personally am very thrilled to host with Ambi Parameshwaran. So, what we are going to talk about brand building in the highly competitive digital economy, right? And the most memorable brands are those that capture the audience fancy with great storytelling, right? Making a brand stick requires a fine balance between meeting audience expectations and creating a larger than life premise, right? In the recent past, some new brands have managed to become household names, just like the FMCGs of the yesteryears. The digital economy provides brilliant opportunities for brands to get the right. And before we start, I'll give a quick introductions for the behemoth that is with us today. The name Ambi Parmeshwaran is synonymous with brand building in the advertising industry, right? As a coach, he has helped several brands become household names. Ambi is a published author as well and serves as an independent director to many companies. He has versatile skills in several niches like advertising, writing, teaching, consulting, and enjoys imparting his wisdom to the young generation. And after going through his LinkedIn, I feel dwarfed. He built FC Ulka for a couple of more years than I have been alive for. So I'm definitely going to enjoy this conversation and learn a lot from this, right? So before I get into the depths of some things that I personally want to learn from you, would you mind sharing your favorite campaign or favorite company that you worked on building campaigns for, or building a brand for, and what it felt like back then when you were doing it?
Okay, thanks, Rishabh, for inviting me onto this forum. Like you said, I'm probably the oldest speaker you have lined up today. So that's in fact very humbling. And a lot of people here probably are not even as old as the number of years I've spent in one agency working on one brand. I worked on the Tata Motors brand for probably 20 plus years. I worked on, the Santur brand for more than 20 plus years. And so I'm happy to be here. I'm also humbled because our era is over. I think your era is beginning, and you guys are going to do a great job building brands, connecting with consumers. Our challenge, anyone who's over 50 or over 60, challenge is to keep pace with the change happening in society around us. Whether we'll keep pace or not, whether we'll be in demand 5 years from now or not, I don't know. I was in active work life till 2016. After that, I turned an independent brand consultant, coach, guide, mentor. I write, I teach, like you said, and I'm happy to be here. So, through my career, I worked on several brands like Amul and Z and Tata Motors and Santur and Compaq and ICICI Bank and Pediasure, Abbott and Digene. I mean, the list goes on and on. And I believe the happy thing for me is that I got to work on a brand called Santur for 20 years. And Wipro's just come out with a book called the Wipro 75 Years. And I'm humbled that they mentioned my contribution to the growth of Santur, which became the second largest, soap brand in the country, overtaking the legendary Lux brand. I mean, when I started working on Santur in 94, probably Lux was 10 times the size of Santur. And 2016, 2017, Santur became bigger than Lux. When I started working on Santur, if you had asked me, will Santur ever become bigger than Lux? I would have said, what did you smoke? But it ended up becoming bigger than Lux. And thanks, Nomad, to a very focused marketing team, very focused on what they wanted to do. Advertising, which kind of worked the brand, and they kept at the same advertising, kept tweaking it. So that's a brand I'm very fond of, very proud of having worked. And of course, I'm very proud of having partnered Tata Motors during their early era entry into passenger vehicles, Tata Indica, and then Tata Indigo, then Vista, Manza. No one gave them a chance. No one gave Tata Motors a chance in the passenger car business. When we entered, I'm saying we, but Tata Motors entered the passenger car business in 98. No one gave them a chance. But again, a great team, great marketing team, engineering team, and I was fortunate to be on the advertising and the marketing communication side and help build powerful brands, help build a business for Tata Motors. So those are two brands which I'm very fond of. Of course, there are many, many more, but I'll just stop with two.
Right. So I think, I mean, as soon as you mentioned Santu, right, the song started playing in my head. Santu, and the very iconic song, and that goes on to tell how to the extent of the brand that Santur has been able to build. Right, you mentioned Santur, and that entire song, that entire aura comes into your mind, and you have that remembrance of that fragrance that probably that the soap carries, right? And I think very excitingly, when you talk about Tata Motors, the iconic Indica, which was such a road runner for such a huge, probably a decade. 20 to 2000s was winning time for that Indica, right? So I think it must feel really great to be part of something from its initial years, and then seeing how big it eventually becomes, right? Because, and I'm telling you from that from my own experience, right? We started Pepper 4 years ago. We only celebrated the 4-year birthday on 16th October, right? And and there were 80 people in one room for the first time, and it felt very different. It felt weird. So I'm sure you must be also be feeling it on a day-to-day basis, because you have done it for so many brands out there.
Absolutely. I mean, absolutely. It is great to work on a brand, work on the campaign, and have the campaign go out, and then get positive feedback saying, the campaign is working and the consumer is reacting positively to the. Of course, it's not that every campaign I've worked on has worked. Some of them have bombed, uh,
Got it.
but you get the feedback, and then you get the feedback. You feel happy that your your inputs helped in building the brand. Yeah.
Great. And then jumping onto the new age conflict, right? So I've been overseeing marketing for Pepper Content, right? Advertising as a term is now used very less compared to marketing or digital marketing, right? So do you, I mean, according to you, right, what's essentially the basic difference between advertising, with what you saw probably 10, 15 years ago, and what marketing is termed as in today's era, right? There was an advertising industry that was talked about a lot earlier. It still is very big right now, but increasingly it's coined marketing, or it's coined content, right? So how is that shift from advertising to probably a content first industry? What's your commentary on that?
Okay, well, advertising is a very old industry. FCB, which traces its origin to Lord and Thomas, is more than 125 years old, right? It's a very old. So is J. Walter Thompson. These are old businesses which continued. Uh, but some 15 years ago, or maybe 20 years ago, uh, marketing professors felt that advertising was too narrow and they had to be redefined. And then the term IMC, integrated marketing communication, came up. In fact, I teach a course on integrated marketing communication. At that time, advertising was separate, PR was separate, event was separate, direct marketing was separate, and they brought all that together under integrated marketing communication. So once you have an umbrella called integrated marketing communication, right, then everything can come into that. Content marketing can come into that, social media marketing can come into that. Uh, what do you call PR can come into that. This kind of an event, what Pepper Content is doing to celebrate its fourth anniversary, can come into that. It's all part of the integrated marketing communication. The understanding is every business has a business objective, right? Which is to, maybe for the case of Pepper Content, to become X crore revenue, whatever in 5 years time. So your business objective. From business objective, you come to marketing objective, saying, look, if I have to achieve the business objective, I need my marketing objective is to, like you got 68 speakers today, and you got something like 10,000 people coming in. A lot of them probably content creators. So your marketing objective may be, by the end of 2025, I should have 10,000 content creators on my platform, right? That's your marketing objective. And then your marketing communication may involve, for example, hosting an event like this, putting up videos on how to create content, onboarding content creators, onboarding content users, doing demos, doing demonstration, building use case scenarios, uh, what do you call case studies, building case studies. all that becomes part of your integrated marketing communication package. See, in the good old days, I'm talking when I started my life in advertising in 1979, even television was very small, right? So we used to do cinema advertising, we used to do newspaper advertising, we used to do, uh, magazine advertising, and we used to do a little bit of radio advertising. It all had very limited reach in India, right? And later, when television became big, Doordarshan itself became very big in around the mid 80s. Doordarshan and TV became very big, right? And a lot of advertising actually started and ended with TV. The whole job of the ad agency was to create that one television campaign, which sometimes that one ad ran unchanged for 2 years, right? That one ad, 30-second ad, runs the same way for 2 years. This era is gone. This era ended probably 10 years ago. That it's no longer one ad running for 2 years, the one ad may run for 3 months. And in the case of digital, the one ad may run for 3 days. Who knows, right? It's changing. But the problem is, uh, a lot of brand marketers tend to see something as very important and they delegate everything else, right? I mean, they spend a lot of effort on creating that whatever 30-second, 40-second commercial, but then your Twitter feed, your Instagram, and all happening at a routine level, and that's a problem, which I think the industry is as yet waking up to. That every single piece you do, every single piece, every single tweet, everything you do on Insta, on Facebook, has to be aligned with the brand's objectives. You know, it's very nice to put out, Happy Diwali, Happy Valentine's Day, but what has it got to do with your brand, right? If you don't answer that question, it's just a waste of time, effort, money, and a lot of headache for your digital marketing agency.
Right. No, I think I agree. Right, we have made these mistakes in the past, and I'm also learning on the go as to how this essentially is important as to how everything should converge to something, right? And this is a question increasingly we are asking as to every action, everything that we put out should eventually have the same objective. It cannot be distorted in that sense. So I think that's great. I think from what you told, right? Brand building, right, and advertising in general, right, was very limited to even till probably late 2005 2010, right, to TV commercials, these big hoardings, probably newspapers and magazines and radio, right. And the access to this was limited to brands that probably had money to spend on these big commercials, right. Suddenly these social media channels arise, and advertising, or the ability to build a brand gets democratized. You don't now need to buy a hoarding, or you don't need an ogilvy to or a wpp to do your content. You can just do start doing it on your own, build a graphic on Canva, or shoot it on your own through a phone, and just post it on a YouTube or a Facebook, or and I think because of that democratization, right, the number of people trying to do it has increased rapidly, right. Brand, if you probably go into any marketing conclave, right, and even this one, right, brand building is a huge keyword that everyone uses, right. So how do you go about doing that in this era, right? So earlier, right, again, just reiterating, earlier it was very, if you can capture all segments of a TV, a commercial, a magazine, or a newspaper, you probably can do that. But today it's not that. How you talk online, their backlashes, how online reputation management, right, all of this stuff comes together, right. So how do you do that, best ways to build a brand authority in this era, which probably wasn't there, say, 15 years ago.
Yeah, it's if you look at Indian companies, Indian entrepreneurial companies, not all of them decided to go on TV on day one, right? I mean, going on TV is very expensive, right? So they've actually built their brand, one step at a time. It could be geo targeting in that sense, take only one state, one television channel, build it from there. Then you go into second state, second television channel, and then go into more and more states. So it's not as if every brand is coming out of Unilever and P&G, and on day one they can take Star, Z, and Sony and blow up 30, 40, 100 crores. No. A lot of brands which you see are very successful today actually started in a very, very small way, maybe in one state, maybe in one district. So this today is got amplified further, right? You want to launch a brand, you can do it. You can target your customers in Gurgaon, right? You can target your customers in Whitefield, and then distribute your product in Whitefield and see if it works. And if it works, you have a use case, then you raise more money, then you cover the whole of Bangalore, and then you cover the whole of Karnataka, then you cover more and more states. So today you can, because of digital media, you're able to do narrow casting. But the problem is, all this is okay after you cross the basic bridge, which is who's your customer, what is the customer wanting, and how is your brand solving the customer's problem, and why should the customer buy your brand. All this is captured in what I call the brand positioning statement, right? You got to get your brand positioning statement, and then say that everything I do has to be aligned with that positioning statement. A lot of times today they say, no, 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 brand positioning statement is very old, brand key is very old, let's throw it out, let's, today is a new age, do anything you want, anything will work. Yeah, maybe, I mean, it's spray and pray. You shove a lot of stuff, something will stick. But the better way to do is to say who is, whenever I talk to any of my clients who come to me, first thing we do is let's understand your customer. Who's your customer? What problem are you solving for them? Based on that, write a simple, don't get into gymnastics, write a simple brand positioning statement for a 27-year-old person called Rishabh who is having this problem. This brand will solve it because it contains blah, 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 blah. So that's the positioning statement. Once you put down your positioning statement, then everything that you do, whether it is a blog post, whether it is a video content, whether it is a white paper, whether it's an article, whether it is a Insta photograph, it has to be aligned to that. And then you can start in a small way, and then you can scale it up, right? See, the other myth which a lot of people have is that digital media is free. I remember I was advising a university, you can call it a startup, but a university a few years ago, and I was saying we need to build the reputation of the university. And so the chairman of the board said, oh, no, 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 we will not advertise. So I said, no, I'm saying you should do digital marketing. And this chairman, was actually a chairman of a very large company before he took over here, said, oh, yeah, yeah, digital marketing we'll do. So then I had to say, sir, that is also advertising. No, 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 that we don't pay. I said, sorry. If you don't pay, you get nothing, right? You have to pay. Every impression you get on digital marketing costs you money. And very often on people here know this, on a CPM basis, it's more expensive than television. People think, oh, digital marketing, I create my own, YouTube channel, I create my own Facebook page and my LinkedIn page, and whatever I post, everyone will see that era is gone, right? That era is gone. Now it costs you money, it costs you more money, which is why you got to make sure that what is your brand, and it has to be aligned to the consumer's requirements, the consumer's needs, and whatever you do has to be aligned to that brand positioning. Otherwise, it is going to be water off the duck's back, and it's not going to work for you.
Cool. I think again, I was actually thinking about the marketing goals for probably the next 1 year, right? And I coming from my own whatever little experience that I had, I was thinking, is it better to do 10 stuff, hoping one will click and then we double down on that, or we do only two and make sure that they work? I think I'm what I'm getting is probably the second one is a better approach, because that gives more time and quality to the outputs that you probably create. So I think thanks for that lesson, Ambi. So one question that is very 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 specific to probably the last 10 years is how can businesses, become socially responsible without being perceived as cheap or trendy, right? Because movement marketing, and is a very big trend these days, right? And but companies need to align to these movement to movement trends, but still, they necessarily may not, align with the message or what is happening, but they need to have a commentary on that, right? How do you think, probably an Amul creating a cartoon on, say, the Uri attacks, or probably winning the Olympic gold medals, right? So these things happen, right? How do you think, what should be the thought process of brands going after movement marketing to get those eyeballs in, easily?
Okay, now every brand cannot become Amul. You got to realize that Amul has been doing this, for something like 30, 40 years. Sylvester Dicona used to do it then, and now Rahul Dicona is doing it, and they do a great job. So you have to remember, you can't become an Amul. Okay, so your job is not to change society. Your job is to build your brand, which means you have to attract the customer and give the customer a reason to buy your brand or try your brand. So moment marketing and all is very nice, Rishabh. It's all very nice to talk about. But if you're talking of a small brand which is kind of stretching every rupee, you got to make sure that every rupee works for you, right? So just because Ronaldo moved the bottle and let's say Fevicol did an interesting piece, doesn't mean you're a, let's say a face cream that you should also do that, or let's say you're a bottle of jam and you should do that. No, you don't need to write on every single moment. I mean, I'm sure on Monday you'll be flooded with various things about India winning the one day international, the T20 against Pakistan, and I hope they win. Uh, what does that got to do with your brand, yeah? You're selling potato chips. If it's not relevant to your brand, forget it. Keep quiet, right? You're selling, you're selling hair dye. It doesn't matter. Keep quiet. You don't need to jump on every bandwagon which is passing through town. That's why I keep telling people your job is not to change society. Your job is not to jump onto every moment. Please remember what is your brand, who's your customer, how can you make your brand more relevant to your customer. Be focused on that. Just because Amul does a nice topical hoarding, and I think last time a lot of people did something using PV Sindhu and they got sued, right? So be careful. Be careful. Celebrities are also becoming very wise, and they know that a lot of brands are doing a free ride. They'll come after you, right? You can't do a free ride, and you can't get away with it like Amul. Amul has been doing it for heaven's sake. They've been doing it for 40 years, and let's be clear, they've also had a lot of missteps. And remember, and I keep telling this, Amul's hoarding is a unique example anywhere in the world. In fact, the design is created by the agency and it is released into media, and the brand owner sees it like you and me. They see it in the paper the next day, right? The agency has total freedom to do what they want to do. They 90% of the time get it right. Sometimes they get it wrong, right? But the client is okay. Client is allowing them complete freedom to do it. You can't become an Amul. Amul is unique. You can't become an Amul. You can't become a Fevicol. So don't even try to be one. There are enough opportunity for you to build your brand without becoming an Amul or a Fevicol.
Makes sense. I think what I'm taking away from this is, marketing. The base objective of marketing is not to get eyeballs, but to get business, right? And I think that in essence is being missed somewhere in today's young marketeers, right? But yeah, I think it's something to think over for everyone in the company as to, when you do something, is it just to get viral, and or is to get business? I think that's a very interesting question to
So so let's be clear. It's not just business. Okay, one is yeah, you need to get business. The other is you need to build image. Right? These two are interrelated. In order to build image, you may pick up some moment and do it because it's relevant to your line of business. But if it is not, then stay away. The other big problem today, Rishabh, is every brand wants to espouse a cause. You know, intercaste marriage, this, that, again, some of it is garbage, some of it is good. But then please remember, you will get called out. If you are doing something which you're not true to yourself, you will get called out. The famous, that girl statue outside, Wall Street, in front of that, bull, what is it called? Defiant Girl or something. Some agency proposed it, and this company, I think in the financial services, sponsored it. They put up the girl statue there, and then activists found out in this company, which was, I think, a finance company, the women were paid less than the men. So this company actually had egg on its face after doing this, right? So be careful about what you do, right? And don't go and don't go and don't trouble till trouble troubles you. It's an old saying.
I think great example. And one very tectonic shift that we are seeing because of the hyper localization that we are seeing, right, is we are completely going towards from a one to many marketing to one marketing, right? A very recent example is the Cadbury campaign that was done with Hrithik Roshan using deep fakes, right? So whoever in the audience is not aware what deepfake is, it's an AI generated video by taking someone real video and morphing it and customizing it for in each individual view. So, for example, if Hrithik Roshan comes to me, he will say, "Hey Rishabh, this Diwali do this," and if it comes to say Ambi, "Hey Ambi, this Diwali do this," right? So at scale, this is done by AI technology, right? And again, Facebook, Google, every stage of the funnel, have different creatives that we see, every different videos, different kind of positioning that we're trying to do, right? So what do you think about one-to-one marketing, first of all, Ambi, right? And how do you think this will scale up in the next 5 years or 7 years?
I don't know. It's still being played out. Like, for example, I think today there was someone shared something about how Cadbury is asking you to name your neighborhood grocer who sells Cadbury products, and then they will curate ads and they can upload the ad, and Cadbury will kind of air it, whatever. So it's an interesting effort. Last year, Cadbury also put out an ad where, depending on where you're watching it from, the local grocers, names came. So some of the more sophisticated, social media platforms actually allow you to pin target, IP targeting, beyond IP targeting, pin code targeting. So I know that Rishabh is sitting in this particular pin code, and I can deliver these specific things to you in that pin code. So that's going to happen more and more. Uh, but but will it therefore make me buy Cadbury instead of Nestle? I don't know, right? Will it make me therefore buy Oreo instead of ITC's Dark Fantasy? I don't know. Will it really make me more? These are things which are still being played out. Just because I mention the word Rishabh in the ad and say that, Rishabh, Oreo will go great as a Diwali gift, right? Will you believe me more? Or if Dark Fantasy comes and says Rishabh, doesn't say Rishabh, it says, hey, whatever you're eating this for this Christmas or for this New Year or for this Diwali, nothing beats Dark Fantasy because it melts in your mouth. Which works better? Just because I say Rishabh, does it work better? Or because I say Dark Fantasy kind of melts in your mouth, which work better? So you can't take it away. You can't, just by saying personalizing, I can do any garbage and personalize it, and the consumer will like it. No, consumer may not like it, right? So you got to balance all this. That's this whole thing about the latest, newest kid in the block, the newest gizmo. Let's try the new gizmo. Let's do 3D ad. Let's do this. Let's do that. May not work. So you got to be, we've done 3D ads for ITC. I think we did ads in three-dimensional, which ran in 3D movies, right? And there was a craze for 3D movies at one time, but I think the craze has died down. I don't think 3D, but we did a 3D. We actually accessed technology which could convert a regular movie into a 3D movie. It kind of separates the colors. so that when you wear the 3D lens, it looks as if chocolate is pouring, all over the place. So we've done that, right? At one time we said, yeah, this is going to work great, but even 3D movies have not, kind of taken off the way everyone thought it will take off, right? So again, I'm just wondering whether this hyper personalization is a new altar in which all of you are praying. But if you don't have your core promise right, hyper personalization is not going to work for you. Just because it is hyper personalized doesn't mean Rishabh will buy Oreo instead of Dark Fantasy if he actually thinks Dark Fantasy is a much more tastier product.
Makes sense. Makes sense. No, I think thanks for that. I mean, we have some questions from the audience. I'll probably take a couple of those before we end this conversation, right? So one, because you mentioned that you probably are is the old, most senior, speaker that we have with us. One person asked, how do you keep pace with the younger generation taste and lingo, right? Do you have a process for understanding the pulse of the movement when you think about a campaign today?
I think I keep pace with the young people who are participating in forums like this, right? I engage, I engage with my students, right? I'm teaching students at SPGMR, one of the top B schools in India. I engage with the students, and they give me inputs. And I remember I was teaching them, learning theory. We were discussing, you know, classical conditioning and instrumental conditioning. And someone in the class said, "Hey, sir, there's an episode in Big Bang Theory where this guy, is trying to train Penny." I said, "Yeah, I've seen Big Bang Theory," but he said, "Sir, I'll send you that little clip." So he sent me that clip, and I use it in class now, right? How I think Sheldon is training Penny to do the nice things, and he rewards her with a chocolate whenever she does it. It's a
Penny trading Sheldon. Penny trading Sheldon.
Yeah, Penny's being trained, right? And then he tells Penny's husband, what's his name, that one day I'll have her jump out of the pool balancing a beach ball on her nose, right? Because I'll keep training her so well. Looking at that, another class, they said, "Look, sir, actually there is a classical conditioning example from The Office." I said, "Wow, send that." And now I've got a whole collection of these, from my students. I learn from my students, and
Nice.
that's, I think, what keeps me young, or you may say keeps me up to date, and not make me sound and look and feel my real age.
No, I think you can take any young man for a toss from the energy that you bring to the conversation. So one very in thing that a person Aditya Maurya asked, right, uh, is how influential is the role of regional marketing in terms of excluding social media. So print, radio, local newspapers to to get to tier 2, tier 3 personas, right? People in these, right? So I think there's a very good wave of building for Bharat, doing stuff for the hinterland of India, right? And we also had a panel discussions on how do you reach these people, right? So what's your take on doing stuff for these people that probably aren't in front of you and sitting in a remote village probably 1,000 kilometers from here?
Uh, I think we need to understand what makes them tick, right? I mean, we need to understand what is going to work for them. Sitting in big cities, we may not understand enough about them, so one has to travel there, talk to them, do research with them, understand them, and then curate stuff for them. My advice is never dumb down stuff. People in small towns today get everything we get in big town. So you try dumbing it down, they're going to throw you out, right? You got to make sure that you connect with them in the way they like to be connected, rather than dumbing things down and make it ha 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 hoo, 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 that kind of stuff. It's not going to work, right? And of course, in digital, you can experiment, you can test different options and see what works, and you get a lot of data, right? You get geotag data, you get time series data. With all that, you'll know what works in tier two towns of Maharashtra versus what works in tier two towns of Gujarat. Same thing may work, a different thing may work. The
Yes.
idea is to is to not to take, very often what works in big cities will work in small cities, right? Sometimes they may not. Uh, don't dumb it down. Don't say that no, I will put it in some kacha format, whatever. That's not going to work.
I think that's a very anti narrative that people try to push these days, right? You need to probably have very specific targeting for Bharat. But great, I think it's 5:30, Ambi, and I am really blown away by how you not mince a word. Right? I haven't probably talked to a marketer that is so out there and still throw so such facts at you that you probably are I'm questioning the beliefs that I had in marketing and how I wanted to market paper content. But I think I'll rethink everything after this conversation and probably ping you again to have another personal masterclass for myself, to learn and get mentored in some way or the other, right? So I think thank you for this, Ami. Thank you for attending. I'm sure the audience loved the conversation. I personally loved it, more than anyone probably. So thank you again. Thank you for taking out your precious time for us, and hope to stay in connect. All the best, and have a good
So,
rest of
so,
the.
so Rishabh, thank you for inviting me here. Wish Pepper Connect all the very best because you are trying to change, you're trying to create a new ecosystem of content creators. So, I think all the best to you and keep doing the great work you're doing. So, God bless you guys and all the very best. Thank you.
Thanks, Ami. Thank you. Thank you, guys. We'll take this offline now.